Afternoon, students. My name is Sibongile Sopi. I'll be your geography tutor for today. And our topic for today is rural settlements and urban settlement. And the components that we'll be discussing today will be land use, patterns, reasons for the location, and rural-urban migration. Although this components consists of two, rural settlements and urban settlements, today we will be concentrating on the rural settlements. So before I start, I would like to read the definition for you guys for settlements, because I feel like that is the basic definitions that you have to understand first before continuing. So, a settlement is a group of people living on a day-to-day basis in an area that has buildings, communication networks, and functions. Now we move on to land use. There are two components underneath land use, which is subsistence farming and commercial farming. So the word subsistence farming, this means that the people in the rural areas, they grow plants, they have sheep, they have animals, but all of those they use for themselves. So whether they have vegetation or whether they milk the cows, they end up using it for themselves because it's subsistence farming. The second option is commercial farming. The word commercial already sells it, because commercial means whatever they're doing with the vegetation or whatever they're doing with the cows and the milk, they are selling it for profit. So commercial farming means that there is a profit involved. Subsistence farming means that they're farming for their own goods. The next component is patterns. So in patterns, there is nucleated pattern and dispersed pattern. The word nucleated, the people that have physical science and life science, you guys have heard the word before, but it doesn't have the same definition in geography. The word nucleated means in the rural area, let me make an example of Eastern Cape, where the houses are close together. Let me just make a drawing. This is the area, this is where the houses are. They're nucleated, meaning they're closer together. Dispersed pattern means the houses are much further apart. We'll get a house here, we'll get another one down the road. Like the houses are dispersed from each other. They're not as close as the nucleated pattern. So the next component is reasons for location. So when we speak of reason of location, we need to look at two words, which are site and situation. The definition of a site is the exact piece of ground settlement is found on. So when they talk about a site, when choosing a site for rural settlements, the following factors are considered. Obviously, where you live, you need to look at water availability. You need to look at whether the ground is fertile for vegetation to grow. You need to look at the buildings and the material. So those are the three things that I can think of now, which is the water, whether the ground is fertile or not, and whether there are buildings around. Situation refers to the settlement in relation to its surrounding environment. In other words, above the flood line, away from the river. Meaning, if anything happens weather-wise, you need to be as far away from the river because, example, a flood happens. Your house will be destroyed because you are closer to the water. So the situation refers to the settlement in relation to its surrounding. So the settlement and what is around the settlement. I feel like the definition is very, very simple. The next one that we'll be looking at is rural-urban migration. The word says it all, rural-urban migration. Going from rural to urban area. So we'll be dealing with push and pull factors. As countries develop and urban areas expand, more and more people move from rural areas to cities and towns. This movement of people from rural area to urban area is called rural-urban migration. Okay, so there are many things that can push an individual from the rural areas to the urban areas. The first thing is job opportunities. Job opportunities, because in the rural areas there is no job opportunities. People always go to cities for job opportunities. And also better living conditions. In the rural area you have to walk to get your water, you have to go to the rivers to get your water, you have to go outside to put a fire in order to cook. So in the urban areas, all of that is easier. There's electricity, we can use a stove to cook, you just open a tap in your house in order to have water. So those are a lot of things that people move from urban areas to, from rural areas to urban areas. So I'll just name a few push factors. So push factors, the word push already instructs you that push meaning out of rural areas, and then the pull factors meaning they're pulling you to the urban areas. So push factors, these make you want to leave the rural area, they push you away. I'll just name a few. Lack of services in rural areas, example, water, electricity, transport. Lack of employment in rural areas, few jobs are available, little variety of the types of jobs that are available. There's also a lack of housing. And then pull factors could be better access to services in urban areas, example, water, electricity, and transport. More jobs and more types of jobs are available in urban areas, more housing and better housing available in urban areas. In such an instance, when it comes to housing, I think they need to re-look at this definition, because in housing, whether you are in the rural areas or in the urban areas, housing will always be a problem. So, just a short recap of what we did with rural settlements. We looked at the definition. We said rural settlement is a unifunctional settlement because it has one primary activity, which is farming. Land use, there's subsistence farming. Subsistence farming, you farm for yourself. Commercial farming, you farm to get a profit. Patterns, nucleated patterns where houses are closer together. Dispersed patterns, houses are much further apart. Reasons for location, there's site and there's situation. Site, the exact piece of ground the settlement is found on, and obviously when it comes to site, you need to look at the available resources, which is water, fertile ground, etc. When you look at the situation, it refers to the settlement in relation to its surrounding. So where you are situated at, you need to look at what's in your surroundings. Before we use the river, you wouldn't want to be located next to the river because anything can happen that will compromise your settlement. The last one was rural-urban migration, which was the push and pull factors. And that is it for today. Next week we'll be looking at urban settlements. And thank you, grade 12s, for watching. Thank you so much. Bye.